What's good, my people? Welcome into No Ketchup Sports Talk via Chicago. I am your host, Sean Little. Big Nick the Quick with me, as always. That boy, Caleb Williams. He's on the ascent. The city is on the ascent. We're going to talk about the man's went out to London, threw out the fit, and put up 4 touchdowns. Was an inch away from having a 5-touchdown passing game over the pond. But
light work.
Before we get into that, Cornball of the week is back. Big Nick the Quick got something he got to get off his chest. We're also going to go around the shield in the NFL. If Big Nick the Quick was Jerry Jones, what does he do? He builds Jerry World, and now all his team does at Jerry World is get blown out and embarrassed. It's been 3 straight games at home for Dallas. They've been absolutely murdered, and it was no different Sunday against the Lions, 49-6. 9. They got smoked.
47-9.
9.
Didn't
47-9.
matter. Didn't matter after the first 5 minutes. Put it that way.
So we're going to talk about that. Also, if Big Nick the Quick was Jimmy Haslam and he owned the Cleveland Browns, what would he do with Deshaun Watson? Tons to talk about, tons to break down. We're going to have fun with this one. No Ketchup, Sports Talk in Chicago. Stay locked.
Now look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're going to play it. You gonna do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
Big Nick the Quick, what's happening?
How we feeling?
Great.
I saw you were out in the Capitol this weekend. Took a little adventure
we was out
to
in
the
the
capital.
The district.
Yeah.
The district this weekend. Shout out my cousin Brody, man, and Steph. They hosted us at their crib. One of my closest cousins just had a son. His name is Carter, so I went to go meet him, visit him. We had a good time, man. Just kicked it, walked around D.C. Saturday, hung out, and then Sunday just kicked it, watched some ball, ordered some wings, grilled. It was perfect. We just chilled.
Perfect.
So
nice
yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect. But
perfect.
I actually had perfect. I had a ton of people in my inbox, not that recently, but when we stopped doing it, people used to hit me all the time. When are y'all going to bring Cornball of the Week back? Well, it's back. We're going to put it in rotation with A-Man and the rest of the new segments here on the relaunch of No Ketchup. Big Nick the Quick has a Cornball of the Week, and a lot of people agree with you.
Nick Sirianni.
What are we doing?
We don't need to say anymore. Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, man, I think we can go back to when Sirianni was hired. Gave a bit of a wild press conference. Some questions came up. Is this the guy that we want? What's the deal with this guy? He seems a little bit extra. I like out the box hires, right? So I was kind of like, look, man, first press conference was rough. You know who else had a first press conference that was rough? Dan Campbell, and that's worked out well. Fast forward to 4 years later. Look, Sirianni did a great thing taking this team to the Super Bowl. It was a great moment for them. They obviously lost. Then we fast forward to last year. Team starts off 7-1. Right after that, team completely implodes, gets smacked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the offseason or in the playoffs. Whole offseason full of questions. Is Jalen Hurts really that guy? What's going on with Philadelphia? The story comes out in the beginning of the year saying him and Hurts don't really have the greatest relationship. Right? They asked Hurts about it this week. He said, "Yeah, we talk," which tells you everything that you need to know about that relationship, but that's not what's important here. What's important is what happened yesterday. Yesterday at home, the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Cleveland Browns, who they end up beating. I think the score was, 20-17? A close game against the Cleveland Browns, who we'll get into later when we talk about the whole Jimmy Haslam situation, are easily one of the worst teams in the league, top 2 worst teams in the league, right behind the Carolina Panthers. Nearing the final minutes of that victory, Sirianni, who I guess have been hearing it from the fans throughout the entire game. I think at one point they were chanting, fire Nick, all types of stuff, whatever. He's gotten a lot of heat. Turns from the sideline, runs up to where the fans are, and starts screaming at the fans in Philadelphia in the link. Saying whatever. You couldn't quite see what he was saying, but he was clearly talking shit to his own fans, which I've watched a lot of sports in my life. I can't tell you that I have ever seen that before, right? Like, it's one thing if they were in Cleveland or something like that, and he's yelling at those fans. At your home fans during a win, I have never seen a head coach turn and do that. Then this is the kicker. This is the part that really got me. In the post-game presser, after barely beating the Cleveland Browns, he brings his kid with him to the press conference, which I can tell you for sure, outside of a Super Bowl victory, I have never seen a head coach across any sport. Any sport. And you already know how I feel about kids at the podium. Your boy out in Boston does it all the time. I feel like it's very deflectionary. The kid always seems to make an appearance when the going gets tough. Sirianni, after a regular season barely scraped by a win against the lowly Cleveland Browns, brings his kid out to the press conference, right? After he just talked shit to the fans, proceeds to then tell everybody at the press conference that his players told him he needed more passion, and that's why he ended up running up and talking shit to the fans, right? Also said, hey, look, our fans helped us out. They got us some offsides penalties, but, I also don't like it when they're going against us. This is the city of Philadelphia. We don't need to talk about the history of the fans in Philadelphia, but I don't know if I can think of, in more recent memory, more cornball activity than turning around, yelling at your fans in the stadium during a win against a bad team, a game you're barely winning, then bringing your kid up to the press conference, saying it was your players who told you to do something like that, and then doubling down on it and saying that it was the right thing to do. Nick Sirianni is a certified cornball. He is not mature enough, I don't know if that's the right word, not mature enough to be a head coach in the NFL. I don't know how you can control a locker room full of people when you are doing things like that, especially when there's already questions about you. So to me, it was pure cornball activity. The Philadelphia Eagles should be embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. And for being honest, there's no reason he should coach this team if they have another bad loss. That gives me everything I need to know. That tells me everything I need to know. I would move on from that guy right now. All serious aside, all jokes aside, it was embarrassing. Never seen anything like it.
For those who don't know,
absolute cornball of the week.
For those who don't know, Big Nick the Quick is you represent the franchise when you're the quarterback and the coach. You cannot embarrass the people that are running and own the team. You know who pays all the salaries? The people sitting in the seats. The people buying all the merchandise. Nick Sirianni is the prime A #1 FBI most wanted for when he stops winning even remotely close to competing. He's out the door. He has no leeway, zero. Now,
wait, can I add on that real quick, actually, to even just add to that point? Remember Nick Sirianni, you went to the Super Bowl, you lost your OC and your DC, and you've essentially been a dumpster fire ever since then. So let's not forget about that. When we love to talk about our favorite subject is head coaches and what exactly do they coach. You are pure. What exactly do you coach, guy? So already on thin ice in my book. Forgive me.
And then we talk about setting the tone and being a culture setter, and that's not the culture or the tone you want set. It's clear the quarterback who you have paid, who is a bona fide proven leader in the NFL. It's talked about throughout the league by other players. He carries himself as the leader. Clearly doesn't like, if you want to put it in layman's terms, he doesn't respect how Sirianni moves on a day-to-day. That's it, period. Now,
I don't like how he's living.
He don't like how he lives his life, how he moves.
Like how he lives. I don't like how he moves.
Now, when you represent the team, the coach, and the quarterback, and one guy and the other are kind of head up on how you should go about things, that's bad news bears. Now, we know everything is always going to be covered up when you're winning, but they haven't been. They finally get all their guys back. A.J. Brown's back. Devontae Smith is back. They don't bury the Cleveland Browns whatsoever. They actually scrape out a win. It wasn't as close as it looked because Cleveland blocked a field goal. Myles Garrett blocked the field goal. They pick it up, scoop, and take it down and score a TD. That was the only offensive touchdown they scored. But still, it was a one-possession game. They had to get a stop from Cleveland. Could have won that game coming down the stretch.
That you should be walloping that team.
You should be walking the stadium and kissing the fans' hands saying thank you for the support. Not the exact opposite.
Yep.
So, yeah, man, I mean, that was a bad look, a cornball move, and it aligns with how he's been acting now for quite a while. He's won a lot of games, but he seems to be he doesn't have the belief of guys that he needs to have the belief of, and that's Jalen Hurts.
If you're Jalen Hurts, think about where you came from, right? I played at the University of Alabama under Nick Saban. There was no cornball activity there at all. I'm not used to my head coach acting like this. And this isn't the first time that Sirianni has came off like a complete cornball, right? Or like an asshole, for lack of a better term, right? Like, this is not the first time that he's come off immature, childish, but like, to me, that's egregious. Like, that is absolutely egregious. Again, I've never seen in any situation, we know fans can be unruly, right? We talked about it last week. You and I have had some great heckle sessions on people, right? And there's plenty of times that players have engaged in that. I've never seen a coach turn and run towards the fans after a game that you were supposed to win, like you just did something, and then bringing the kid up off a bye against, again, a team that is a literal dumpster fire. One of the worst situations in professional sports when you put it all together. Acting like you just won the Super Bowl, bringing the kid to the podium, and then doubling down on it. It was pure corn. I don't know what's cornier, running towards the fans or bringing the kid to the podium for the post-game press conference. It was egregious. It was extreme cornball activity. And I will never be able to unsee it. I don't care what Nick Sirianni does.
Stay tuned on Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's see if they can continue to compete, because in a division where the Cowboys are not competitive, the Commanders have now shown up, and they're the favorite to win the division by a little bit. If they lose the division to the Commanders, I would say that's the grounds for fire and purely on the field production. So stay tuned there.
Terrible division.
But let's go to a more positive conversation in the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. I don't know how many times Big Nick the Quick has said this over the last 24 hours, but I'm sure it's in the double digits. We've got one. We have one.
Yes.
Chicago Bears fans, we have a quarterback. Speaking of a team in the Eagles that didn't beat a team that they're supposed to beat very handily in the Cleveland Browns, you can talk about the schedule all you want with the Chicago Bears. They are thumping these bad teams. They went to London and thumped Jacksonville. Jacksonville was DOA. This wasn't we were getting by and we were making a play here or there. The offense looked fluid. They had no answers for what we were doing offensively, and defense, we absolutely put them in a phone booth, and that was without Jaquan Brisker or Tyreek Stevenson. So what I'm getting at is there's a difference than talking about the schedule when your team ekes by. They are smashing those squads. Get out the way. Y'all are not on our level. That's what the Chicago Bears have done. Big Nick the Quick. Let's talk about Caleb Williams, because you any way you shred it, you could pull up the analytics. You could pull up the old man on the couch on the South Side. He looked sensational. You want to talk about EPA, expected points added. He was the number one quarterback in the NFL. We talk about air yards, accuracy, all the analytics. And you talk about just the eye test.
That's it.
This guy had command of everything going on every play, every possession, every drive. He made one mistake the entire day. I have yet to watch the film. I'm excited to go back and look at all throws. But I know what I'm going to see, because Caleb Williams was sensational. Had 4 touchdown passes, easily could have had 5. Tell me about what you saw, how you feel, and where we're going.
Well, easily could have had 6, because why don't you tell me about what you said about that bad throw, which I thought was spot on the money.
Yeah, so when we talk about quarterback play in the NFL, there's a lot of different elements to it. And when I'm looking at, I just love quarterback play. I was a mediocre quarterback coming up. I had aspirations to play college ball, never really got there. But watching quarterback play is some of my favorite thing to do. And this guy, Caleb Williams, without going and looking at end zone and all 22 sideline, had it going. And when you're going through quarterback tape and trying to see how a specific individual quarterback played, there's a difference between bad decision, bad throw, and good decision, bad throw. In other words, when a quarterback is playing bad, a la
Will Levis.
Deshaun Watson,
yeah, sure,
he's not seeing things and he's making a bad throw. So the decision was poor and the throw was poor. You have to check off two boxes. You have to make the right decision. You have to see what you're seeing, make the right decision, then make the throw. The only thing Caleb missed this week was he made all right decisions and made one bad throw. He's seeing everything extremely clearly at the moment for the Chicago Bears, and he made a right decision, just bad throw. There's a big difference. Keep that in mind when you're watching quarterbacks. Was that a bad decision and a bad throw, or was that just a bad throw? The decision was there on the pick to go up the sideline, and it was almost like he got too cute and was too comfortable. He was so relaxed. He was like, oh, I'm just going to put this up. I don't even got to zip this in because, like, this, he wide open. This is 6. So that was the only mistake he made all day. But, Nick, man, I don't – the best throw of the day, and it's not even close, is to Keenan Allen on a back shoulder.
Yeah.
If I tweeted it
down today on Get Up?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
I tweeted and I tweeted the still frame. I don't know if we've ever had a quarterback hit the top of his drop and throw that ball. Keenan Allen, the ball coming his way is a rumor. He has no idea that the ball's even thinking about coming his way until it's on his ass.
And it's there.
He turns around and adjusts. By the way, Keenan Allen's still one of the best in the league at adjusting and putting hands up and getting them where they need to be and making clean hands first catches, all that.
Excellent route runner, yeah.
But the ball placement on the fade, unbelievable. The ball, the decision and the ball placement on the back shoulder to Keenan Allen on that touchdown was insane. He looked extremely comfortable. I know it was against a really bad Jacksonville Jaguars team, but Caleb Williams, the processor, we talk about the processor all the time. Brock Purdy, elite processor. Not a real big-time arm. Tua, elite processor. Not a big-time arm and can't work off script.
Fast processor. Gets from 1 to 3 quickly about Tua. No. I'm not going to call – he's –
Tua has an elite
processor.
We talked about this before too.
You're right. He can't.
Tua has an elite processor, but once he has processed, he can't play off schedule.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. He's in trouble.
I don't know what to do.
Caleb Williams seems to be growing an elite processor, has elite arm strength and decision making, and when things go off schedule, he's elite at making more time and creating, as we saw with the dump off to Cole Kmet when he's going right and comes back to Cole Kmet. So if you start to see eliteness like Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, when you start processing, can put the ball where necessary, and when things break down, you can create more time and either throw the ball downfield or use your legs to pick up 10, 12, 15 chunk yards. So it's different right now for Caleb Williams. He is clearly elevating and looks very calm in doing so. Almost exactly once I gotten over the Justin Fields thing, what I hoped for, and it is very much coming to fruition here early in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things. Number one, I think you and I both, we talk about this all the time, right? Like I also love quarterback play. And I think that's why you and I have such a hard time watching college football, because the quarterback play is just so atrocious and it's hard to watch the game when the quarterback play isn't there. To your point on that interception, as far as good throw or bad throw, bad decision, or good decision, bad throw, couldn't be more correct, right? Again, I think he will learn from that. And if anything that he's shown us in these 6 games is that he has learned from some of those things, some of those mistakes. You were talking about a lot in the first 3-4 weeks, running backwards, right? Look at this game in London. Those plays where he was running backwards before, he has now decided, I could run forwards a little bit. I can pick up some yards with my leg. If it's a broken play, I don't need to try to scramble 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage and make some crazy throw. I can just try to run, pick up 6, 7, 8, maybe 12, 15 yards and live for another down. So I would have to imagine that he's going to look at that throw and understand, hey, in the NFL, you just can't put it up there like that, right? If I put that up there the right way, that's 6 easy, right? Easy to DJ Moore. He's going to catch it 100% of the time. You just can't throw it up in there because NFL defensive backs are going to feast on it. You talk about that throw to Keenan Allen, which was absolutely beautiful, throwing with anticipation, right? That's a high-level throw. We talk about ball placement all the time. Why do I love Burrow, right? It's the elite ball placement. It's the fact that your receivers don't have to make adjustments. It's the fact that, like you said, you turn around and the ball is exactly where it's supposed to be. We love spectacular one-handed OBJ catches and things like that, but you can't live off that, right? You live off putting the ball where it's supposed to be, when it's supposed to be there. And Caleb has gotten, over the last 3 weeks, elite at that, right? You look at the touchdown to DJ Moore last week. You look at the touchdown throw to Keenan Allen this week. We talk about that back shoulder touchdown to Keenan Allen. That play, there's only one way you can make that play, right? And a lot of quarterbacks can do it, but a lot of quarterbacks can't. And the fact that he did that with ease, put it exactly where it needs to be, didn't make a mistake, didn't overthrow it, right? Was in perfect harmony with his receiver on that play. That to me is absolute progress, and it's showing the traits of an elite quarterback, and they're winning football games. I don't care who it's against. Back-to-back weeks of 5 touchdowns. We watch every single game with Chicago Bears over our entire lives. We have never seen that. So Caleb, to me, man, like I never felt it with Justin. I wanted it to be this way. I never felt it with Mitch. I wanted it to be that way. Like, we would trick ourselves into certain things like, oh, that looks really good. But then when you'd watch the routine and it's just not there. With Caleb, it's there. People could talk about the deep ball accuracy. That's the hardest thing to do in the NFL. I'm not worried about that. It's coming. He'll figure that out, right? So if you mean to tell me Caleb Williams can't throw 40-yard bombs, that's fine for right now. Again, you don't live off that. There's only so many quarterbacks who can do that, and they are at the absolute upper echelon of quarterbacking. But when we talk about the intermediate throws, that's what he's doing. It's not 7-8 yard dinks. These are still going 15, 16, 17, 18 yards downfield. I texted you this yesterday. Inside the 30, right, in that 4-down territory, right before the red zone, he's elite. When he gets down there, he is throwing touchdown passes. You're not going for 3 in those situations. He is throwing touchdown passes. And I also have to give credit to Shane Waldron. Last couple of weeks, the offensive play calling has been on point. I don't know what he told to DeAndre Swift. I don't know what he told to some of these receivers. I don't know what he did to kind of fix that connection between DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, but it's all there. So, yeah, man, we got a quarterback. I said it last week. I'm doubling down on it again this week. I have seen what I need to see. He displays elite traits. And again, with a guy like Fields is an elite athlete. Like Justin Fields, you could put him in any sport on the planet, and he's going to do really well and probably go pro in it. But there are definitely some things, even right now, as I still watch the Pittsburgh Steelers, that from a quarterback perspective, he's definitely lacking in. I don't see that with Caleb, man. I just see a rookie that's getting better and better and better and better and actually gives a shit. And we talk about how he moves. You talk about how he showed up. That was a rookie showing up in the London game like that. It's different. And I saw it from when he first got here, man. The guy just moves with a level of confidence that, I'm just not used to seeing. So, yeah, I'm all in, man. I've never felt this way. I've said it 1,000 times that we got a guy.
Another big thing here on the throw we're talking about to Keenan Allen, this is why it's important to surround guys with talent. If you're going to bring in a superstar, talented, young Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, how about this? Chase Claypool not making that catch. We're not even having this conversation because we're talking about he doesn't have guys that can go out there and make plays for him. Keenan Allen made that play. It's a team. It's a quarterback to wide receiver connection. Simple as that. Chase Claypool doesn't make that back shoulder catch from Justin Fields. So then it's a different conversation. And when we talk about Shane Waldron, it's a different dude last couple weeks. Simple as that.
That fake reverse You said it's the best play you've ever seen on offense from the Bears in your entire life.
And I'm not kidding. the fake double fake screen to the tight end seam, and Justin had a guy coming. That was also another elite play. Justin had a guy coming free and didn't pay him any mind because he knew.
Caleb.
Who did I just say?
Justin.
Yeah. Caleb didn't pay the free runner any mind because he knew he was just going to look him off and then throw behind him to a wide open Cole Kmet. It's just a different level of play call. And I'm serious. That's the best offensive run play I've ever seen for the Chicago Bears. For a touchdown?
Yep.
Unbelievable. So,
and he's using Cole Kmet finally, which this guy's a great pass catching tight end. He scores touchdowns. He's a really good player. Use him.
Just don't ask him to bang with.
Don't ask him to block.
All pro DNs, and he'll be fine. That's
it. You got Gerald Everett and those boys for that. That's fine.
Right. And then we talk about DeAndre Swift. A lot of people owe this man an apology.
Yep.
No, I tweeted this in week 2. Why is Shane Waldron running DeAndre Swift in between the tackles as if he's Earl Campbell? That's not his game. Get him on a zone stretch read, get him out in space, and he will make plays. He didn't forget about how to make moves in the open field. DeAndre Swift, every stop he's been at, when you get him the ball in space, he makes plays. That's what he's been doing, man. We could talk about the Bears for 4 hours. That's how excited I am. I mean, does it get better than this right now going into a bye? I'm almost mad we're going into a bye because it's going to be too much positive smoke going up these boys' ass the next couple weeks.
I'm just upset because all I want to do is watch the Bears, and I can't tell you the last time I said that. Like, I legitimately woke up excited yesterday to watch the game, like knowing that there was nothing else on TV too. Like, I just got straight Bears games. Phone's not going off with notifications on all the other games.
Coffee.
I don't got the multi-screen going on. There's no Premier League disappointment for me going on. It was just a beautiful.
It was
just a beautiful.
Bears.
Just the Bears on a Sunday, and Caleb Williams just handling business down to the tea celebration. These boys are having a good time. I'm telling you, man, it's different. Like, it is different. And I don't care if it's 6 games. I don't care if it's early. I see it. You and I saw it just like we saw it last year with Cole. How many games of Coleridge did we need? And it was just like, we're on the phone like, hey, man, it's different. That's different. Yeah, okay, we're good. Yeah, we're good here, right? Just like I can tell you when a guy's a bum, we can tell you when a guy is different. That guy's different. And I don't think we've missed yet when we put that label on somebody. Go back through the tape of when we said different. We probably haven't missed yet. At some point we said Mahomes was different. Didn't take long.
Different. Yeah.
Coleridge, it's different.
It's clear.
It's different.
The proof is in the pudding, no doubt.
Proof's in the pudding. It's just different.
Well, this is not the week to have a conversation about Eberflus and like the long-term, big picture stuff.
He's going to keep his job.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. It's a good sign that we are going to have a conversation about, man, we're playing such good football that we could potentially really start pushing for the playoffs. And do we have a guy that could take us to the promised land for real? So we'll shelf that. We'll leave that there. We'll come back to Matt Eberflus. But Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears offense is a real problem at the moment. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do because coming out of the bye, with 2 weeks to prepare for Washington, we should put up 30 points. Easy. That Washington defense is awful. So I'm excited to see what they come out and do with the game in the DMV in a couple weeks. All right.
Let's move real quick. Anything on Trevor Lawrence?
Well, I'll say this. He's been mediocre for a while. I don't know why anyone is afraid to admit that or doesn't want to. I don't really understand it, actually. The whole Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy conversation it's
not even close.
So interesting to me because Colin Cowherd had a list and came out and said last week that he would take Trevor Lawrence before Brock Purdy. And we're watching 2 different sports. We're watching 2 different games. And it's purely because he's putting more stock in Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 pick. That's the only explanation.
Yeah.
There's no other explanation. I really don't get it. Trevor Lawrence cannot tie Brock Purdy's Nikes. period, right now.
So I think you're going to answer this question for me, but I did just want to ask this real quick. I looked it up before the show. Contracts very similar. Results very similar. Would you rather have Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence?
Kyler Murray.
Without a doubt. Not even a question.
Not even. Trevor Lawrence, for me, personally, is way down the list. Now, if you watch the game, he had a lot of drop passes, man.
Yeah, he did.
He was putting balls in really good spots.
He really did earlier in the game, yeah, for sure.
There were some plays where it's like, man, he needs some help here. But either way, I just, week to week, year to year now, we're talking, he has done nothing to, like, I'm sure there's people right now that would tell you they'd take Trevor Lawrence in a game before Baker. It's just wrong.
That's crazy.
It's not right.
Crazy. Shout out Baker, by the way.
Shout out Baker, man. Boy,
Trevor Lawrence, 21-35 as a starter, 66 touchdowns, 42 interceptions, 35 fumbles.
Right now, I'm taking Joe Flacco for a game before Trevor Lawrence. Like, absolutely. He's down the list, brother.
He is down the list. Yeah, he's pretty bad.
Yeah. All right, Big Nick the Quick. Let's move over to the Dallas Cowboys. They are a disaster. And coming into the year, I actually made a mistake, Nick, and I actually thought about this angle. I was going through my future plays. I'm not a big futures guy in the NFL anyway, but I was like, but when you're the thing about betting,
parity year to year or what?
Well, the thing about there's just so much. There's no reason to get out unless it's a super long shot. There's no real reason to get out in front with how many injuries can happen and things. It's like I'm getting plus 180 on a spot I really like, but so many things can happen that puts you in jeopardy. I'm not a big futures player.
I think unlike the NBA, you can look at an NBA roster and kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. If we're being honest, the NFL, top 10, 15 guys. After a while, it's like I don't know how this guy is going to play. I don't know how this fourth round linebacker. Yeah, it's way more variables.
So, for example, I was very confident coming in the Dallas Cowboys were going to be bad. Yeah. The offensive line isn't as elite as it was. At this time, when I placed this future, they were still fucking around with CD's money. They had not locked him in. It was just it was their biggest offseason addition was Zeke Elliott. Everything about this team was pointing to not being very good. The defense got exposed on the back end of the year. We saw what happened with Green Bay in the playoffs. They got diced up. Diggs is coming off of ACL, and he's not a lockdown cover corner like that.
Yeah, anyway. Listen. Yeah, we can have the Trevon Diggs conversation another day of the week, but yes.
So basically,
not a lockdown guy.
They have a guy in Micah Parsons that was the only guy on defense that's an impact player, and they wouldn't use him on the edge every play because he's trying to fill holes and do all this other shit. I knew Dallas would be bad, and a mistake made by me, and I hope people learn from this. I deferred to then, I'll just bet Philly to win the division. And I should have just faded the Cowboys individually because part of me was like, what if Jaden Daniels is Coleridge 2.0 and they're really good? What do you know? That's exactly what they are. And now I'm sweating and trying to figure out a hedge on the Eagles potentially winning the division because Sirianni's a dumpster fire. And now Jaden Daniels and the Commanders are really, really good and can compete with teams and have a real good chance to win that division. So I say all that to say, Big Nick the Quick, if you were Jerry Jones and you owned the Dallas Cowboys, the most lucrative and expensive and how would I say net worth? They're worth the most.
Valuable.
The
most valuable franchise
highest value
in the NFL.
Team in the NFL. Big Nick the Quick, if you own the Cowboys and you were Jerry Jones, the blue chip franchise in the NFL, and you are in the situation you're in now where you're 3-3, but you're dead, if we're being honest.
An uninspiring 3-3.
You have been getting dusted off at home. Yeah. Every good team you play, you get smashed by. What do you do right now, Nick the Quick, if you're Jerry Jones?
Well, there's absolutely nothing that you can do right now as far as player personnel. You can't really bring anybody in that's going to change this. I know a lot of people be like, oh, bring in Devontae Adams. What does Devontae do for your team right now? adding another wide receiver, what, are you just going to throw the ball 50 times a game and still not have a running game? He doesn't fix what's wrong with you. There's really nothing you can do other than stay the course, Hope that Micah comes back. Hope that Lawrence comes back, and you can maybe compete in what's looking like a winnable division in the sense that, yeah, Washington's playing really well, but it is a rookie quarterback. Philly does have a bunch of issues, and they look like it can be beatable from week to week. And you still do have a good amount of top-end talent, but it gets real thin and dicey after that. But outside of that, there's nothing you can really do. Firing your coach isn't going to fix anything. Ultimately, if you want to fire Mike McCarthy, you need to bring in a big-time coach. And bringing in a big-time coach in Week 7 is not really going to do anything, right? You could hire Bill Belichick. If you know anything about Bill Belichick, he's not walking into a situation Week 7 and changing it, right? Like, that's the type of guy you bring in on, what's the day where they fire all the coaches? Black Monday? You bring him in on Black Monday when you fire McCarthy. You hire Belichick, and you get him there from day one. Same thing with Vrabel, anybody like that on the market that you might want to bring in. So you have to stay the course with where you're at and honestly just hope it gets better. I don't think there's anything that they can do outside of maybe trying to make some trades on the defensive end, but I don't really know what you have that you can get rid of. That you can.
There is something you could do, Nick.
What's that?
There is something you could do.
Start
Jerry Jones. It's over. Relinquish power and start figuring out who you are going to hire as a GM to run the Dallas Cowboys and make them into a winning organization.
Are you talking about long term? Are you talking about long term or right now?
Oh, Jerry getting ready to die. Jerry don't have much time left. All right? It is time to relinquish the power of the day-to-day running of the Dallas Cowboys to someone else that's qualified and that can get it done. And you back up and become the owner. And when I say right now, I'm talking about right now,
today,
tomorrow.
Yeah, because he should absolutely do that. Make no mistake about it. I fully believe that Jerry Jones is a major part of the problem of what goes on in Dallas. So absolutely, I think long-term, that's what should happen. But if you're saying right now, yeah, absolutely. I don't know how that helps them this year. Maybe it does. Maybe the vibes of Jerry not being involved in every single thing that goes on helps you out. Because remember, they still got the Michael Parsons contract.
But it's a head start. That's what I'm getting at is like, start the transition mentally of like, hey, man, maybe I need to relinquish what I've been doing hasn't been working for a very long time now. Now I have a quarterback that's maxed out. I have a top-end wide receiver that's maxed out. I still have to pay my top-end edge rusher. But other than that, my roster is very depleted. Zach Martin is getting older. He's still towards the top end of his play, but he's still not grading out to be one of the best guards in the league anymore. You need to figure out the next step for the Dallas Cowboys, and it needs to be you stepping away, and that needs to start now. So by next year and the year after that, you can really start competing and building a squad the right way. Because as we know, it doesn't take too much to get back to a competitive level in the NFL. They need a new coach. They need a new coach. Fix a lot of holes on the roster, but you have a quarterback that can play. I don't care what anybody says about Dak Prescott. He is under a ton of pressure. He looked terrible yesterday. But he's under a lot of pressure every week to go do things because legitimately, this is trending to be the worst run defense in NFL history.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want against them.
You could do whatever you want in the run game against them.
So let me ask.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this though. Okay, so assuming you get the Parsons deal done this summer, which you probably that's going to be interesting.
Assuming,
he's missing games now. You know Jerry's.
Well, we talked about that. We talked about that 3 weeks ago. I wouldn't be shocked if this hammy, that the lingering injury that Micah is dealing with, lingers on for quite a while.
Saying the hammy's going to turn into a contusion.
It might turn into a contusion, lower body injury.
The hockey injury. Hey, it's the hockey report. He's got a lower body injury.
Now it's hamstring. It's just starting to move into other parts of the body. Lower body injury.
My shin doesn't bend, coach. But listen, so let's say you do get the Parsons deal done. You're now at the top end of the market at quarterback, at wide receiver, at edge rusher, and at corner. Remember, they did play Diggs last year. So you're at the top of the market in 4 different positions. So when we start talking about the rebuild, right, and rebuilding things, you're doing that carrying the first 1 or 2 years of a lot of massive contracts, meaning you cannot get out of those deals outside of trading those players for a huge loss. So I think it's they're in a worse situation than I think it looks. It also is funny because it kind of shows you why maybe Jerry didn't want to pay any of these guys, because he's like, hey, we talked about this. I'm paying to have the same exact thing. That doesn't make sense. Why am I paying and I'm getting the same thing? And now you're kind of seeing that happen, right? But obviously, yeah, defensively, the team is a joke. I heard multiple people refer to them as soft today on TV. I don't disagree with that. I'm not going to throw that around like that. But look, when you give up 47 at home and teams are running trick plays for offensive linemen to score touchdowns, and Jared Goff looks like Tom Brady out there, and they're just running it down your throat, and they're scoring every which way. I mean, I had that game on the main TV. First off, hey, can we please save Tom Brady from having to call the Cowboys every single week? Every week,
all blowouts.
Yeah, I want to get Brady. I want to get Brady on a competitive game, please. Like, please.
Yo, can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this quick story. I think the listeners will enjoy this too. So my first time doing TV for MSG, I was doing a football show. It was called Odds with Ends. And it was with Super Bowl champion Matthias Kiwanuka, old New York Giants D-end, and David Tyree. Shout out my guy DT. The catch in the Super Bowl. Everybody knows DT. It was me, Matthias, and David Tyree. I can't remember what team we were talking about. And you know me, Nick. Everybody knows me. I get along with everybody. I don't have no issues with nobody. I'm easy to get along with. I bring levity and fun, and we talk ball. We could talk ball seriously if you want, and we could dive into the analytics, and we could just talk shit and chop it up about ball and do it both ways. We were talking about some defense or some player, and I called the defense soft. So, man, this defense is soft.
They didn't like that.
Matthias Kiwanuka was furious with me. You didn't play ball. You can't utter the soft word because you didn't play NFL defense on a down to down. None of these dudes are soft.
No one out there is soft, yeah.
And to his credit, he went pretty easy on me on live television, but in the break, he basically was like, don't ever use that word around me again when talking about defenses.
Like that.
You can't use the S word. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. He wasn't coming at me.
But he was like, hey, man, settle down.
Almost like my body is beat up from playing D in the NFL, and ain't nothing soft about this shit.
Nothing soft,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that the soft word, especially on TV, I've tried to remove when talking about the NFL, but I mean,
shout out Matthias Kiwanuka.
Shout out Matthias Kiwanuka, yeah.
Just setting these straight.
There's no way around it that you could do whatever you want right now on the Dallas Cowboys and that defense. So if I'm Jerry Jones, I have a meeting with the family, and I'm like, hey, man, this is this time. It's time for me to relinquish some of this power.
But we know that won't happen. We know it won't happen, right? There's more of a chance.
That's the fix, though.
There's more of a chance of you replacing Mike McCarthy as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys than Jerry Jones stepping down and saying it's me. Because that's what he'd be doing. He'd be admitting that it's him, and that's just not – he's not built that way, right? That would be very soft of him, and Jerry Jones not a soft man either. So I think they're in a bad situation. I don't see it getting better. The one good thing about them is they have always drafted well, so maybe a few drafts can fix this. But again, you're going to have to pay
he's not very good at picking coaches.
No,
that's
he's
also
at picking
an
coaches.
issue. And then he doesn't fire them quickly enough.
He's stuck with Jason Garrett for 10 years.
Too long.
Again, another guy who doesn't do anything, who never did anything as a head coach, Jason Garrett. Yeah. So, but it's also hard to, and you know how I feel about Mike McCarthy. It's also hard to turn around and look at Mike McCarthy, who has won a shit ton of ball games in Dallas, and be like, yeah, this is all on you. But that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, stay tuned. But there's not too much from a roster situation that they can do. And that's what's tough because they really do need help from the culture is obviously toxic. And we talked about that going into the year. The vibes were bad.
Not bad around
A lot of
the
bad
Cowboys.
around that team.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Bengals. We talked about that too. A lot of bad vibes going on. But they also have a roster situation that they need to get fixed. And I just don't see how they do that. Like they really don't have a running back. They are weak up front on both sides of the ball. So see what happens.
Speaking of a running back, they had a chance to get Derrick Henry. I want to ask you this, Big Nick the Quick. He is on pace to score like 25, 35 touchdowns in Baltimore. I don't have the number in front of me, but he's scoring every single week in Baltimore, one, if not multiple touchdowns. Going into the year, his total on rush yards was right under 1,000. He's at 700 plus already through 6 weeks. He is absolutely rolling. That run offense is rolling for Baltimore. In my opinion, that's the best team. I think Detroit's the best team in the league. Hutchinson now going down with the broken leg.
Man, that's
hurts.
terrible.
That's
terrible.
tough.
That's really
tough.
So
we'll see how that shakes. But is this the year, Big Nick the Quick, that we could potentially get a non-quarterback MVP a la Derrick Henry, a la TJ Watt? And where do you stand on, the quarterback? Because we talk about how important the quarterback is. That's why they get the MVPs. Where are you at with potentially a non-quarterback getting the award?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think this could be the year. You talk about Derrick Henry. Let's real quick on TJ Watt. Put this out in the group chat yesterday. TJ Watt, hands down, is one of the best football players I've ever seen in my entire life. Just one of the best football players I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, that guy is always doing something. He is always making an impact. I don't know what the Steelers – it'd be interesting. I don't know if any non-quarterback has more of an impact on how many games a team wins than TJ Watt. So I'll go ahead and say that. I think even Baltimore was winning games before Derrick Henry got there, and he just makes them that much better.
Right.
I don't know if you watch Steelers games, and I find myself watching a lot of them because I kind of marvel at how they win. He is just making look.
That's actually a great way to put it.
Yeah, but like even yesterday, right? Like they killed him. It was
they played the Raiders.
The Raiders, right? Raiders are about to score a touchdown. The Raiders are on the goal line. Strip of the running back at the goal line, fumble recovery, TJ Watt.
Yeah, punched it out on the goal line.
Punched it out on the goal line.
Needed it.
Did it.
Yeah, and that's what
that's
he does.
7. That's as good as scoring a touchdown. So like I think when we talk about non-quarterback MVPs, you really start there. But right behind him to me is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's unstoppable. First couple of weeks, the Baltimore Ravens offensive staff didn't realize that, so they weren't using him in the ways that they should have been. Since then, they figured out, hey, give this guy the ball. Give him the ball. Keep giving him the ball, and it opens up every other thing that we want to do. Their defense has a lot of question marks still, obviously. But, look, man, you can control – it really helps your defense out.
So you would give it to TJ. Like, you would give the Deanna MVP look.
If they go to the playoffs again, yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he is.
He's
I would say from a betting standpoint, not many defensive guys can move numbers. If TJ Watt gets ruled out,
he moves. Yes, there you go.
He will. He's probably worth. I would say TJ might be worth like almost a full 2 points, 1.5.
That's
to
funny
the number.
You said
like almost like potentially 2.5 points to the number.
There was an article on this last season, and it was Tyreek Hill was the most valuable in terms of points on the point spread, non-quarterback in the NFL. It has to be TJ Watt this year. It has to be. There's no way you're watching Steelers games and saying, oh, yeah, like if you take this guy out, they still have a chance to be competitive. Like, I mean, again, that was a touchdown. That was essentially scoring a touchdown yesterday is what he did because they were absolutely going to score. So I'd give it to TJ, but that's no knock on Henry. Like, I'm not the type of this or that. Like, if Derrick Henry keeps at this pace and he wins it, I'm not going to be banging some drum for TJ Watt. But, back to Derrick Henry, absolutely unstoppable, man. And it helps the defense out when you have someone like that can run the ball and eat up time and force the other team to burn timeouts, right? Like, again, this is me we're talking about. If you can run the ball and win 20-7 every week, I'm fucking fine. Great. Because you can't really beat that. It's demoralizing. Derrick Henry demoralizes defensive coordinators.
Yeah, he does.
Right? You can't tackle him. At the end of the game, he's just eating up clock. If you get down by the goal line, forget about it. And he gets better as the game goes on, right? When he hits that 20 carry mark, it's over with.
Yeah, it's very true. I'm very interested to see what happens with this MVP market because it seems to be up in the air. Mahomes isn't playing top ball. Josh Allen has fallen off a cliff the last couple of weeks. He's essentially torched really good defenses or really bad defenses. He's played the Cards. he torched them. He torched Jacksonville, and then he's played the Texans and Buffalo, and he's looked very mediocre so far.
Yeah.
He sees the Jets tonight as we're about to hop off here and watch that, but he is in the MVP talk. We'll see what he does. Lamar, are they going to give him a third and back-to-back? This seems
really
like he is. He's playing unbelievable.
He's playing really
This seems, though, like the year that a non-quarterback could win it because the narrative is going to be, because these are narrative awards a lot of the time, that we don't need to give Lamar 3 MVPs and back-to-back. This is the time that we could potentially give a guy like Derrick Henry the MVP. All right, last question to Big Nick the Quick. This is a tough one before we get out of here. Big Nick the Quick, if you were Jimmy Haslam and you owned the Cleveland Browns, what would you do with Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson or my whole entire ball club? Here's what I'm doing right here. There's not too much you can do with Deshaun Watson at this point other than eat it. And I think just for the good of everybody, pay Deshaun Watson to go away. I don't know if you get some cap relief by paying him or saying, hey, man, maybe we'll give you an extra 50 if you pay you and you retire so we don't have to, have as much of a cap hit. But whatever it is, pay him to go away. The situation is terrible. It's over with. You know how much I liked Deshaun Watson prior to this, but this is over with. This guy is done. He's finished. And as long as he looms over your team, you're never going to be able to move forward because if he's on the roster, you're going to feel compelled to start him. The other thing that you need to do, as tough as this is going to be, you got to trade away anybody on that roster who is worth anything. You absolutely have to trade it away. When you traded for Deshaun Watson, you gave the Houston Texans a first-round pick in 2022, 2023, and 2024, along with a 2023 third-round pick and a 2024 fourth-round pick. We talk about trade fleecings, and I guess at the time, hindsight is 2020, but what a haul, right? Like what a giveaway. Meaning during this time when you've been bad with Deshaun Watson, you also haven't been replenishing the top of your roster with first-round draft picks or even third-round draft picks. You got to trade guys to get whatever you can.
You would trade Myles Garrett?
Draft pick. Yes, that's where I'm headed. Trade Myles Garrett. Trade Stefanski if you can. Didn't the Bucks the Raiders trade Gruden to the Bucks?
Yeah.
Something like that. If you can do that, I'll give you Stefanski for a fifth right now. Free Kevin Stefanski. I'd give them a fifth for Stefanski right now. As much as we like, as well as Eberflus is doing the last couple of weeks.
He's more valuable than a five.
Yeah. Whatever he's worth, get that for him. But you have to rebuild this roster, and you're gonna have to rebuild this roster while carrying like a $70 million cap hit for Deshaun Watson. And the only way you're going to do that is with young talent. And the only way you're going to acquire young talent is by trading the guys at the top of your roster. So, yeah, if it's Myles Garrett, if it's any of those guys on defense, if you have some good linemen, if you have Amari Cooper, hey, look, Amari Cooper is for sale. Who wants him? Right? Anybody that's on David Njoku's for sale. Who wants him?
Yeah, you got to strip it down.
Strip it down completely because you can't do anything. Financially, even with Watson off the roster, you're still hamstrung financially by that contract. It's like $100 million cap hit if you release him, and for like 2 years. It's crazy, whatever it is. So you're gonna have to get young guys, free Stefanski, and start all over, and just wait for this to kind of end.
At the time of the deal, we talked about it. If he shows up and looks like he did in Houston, and is playing ball,
you're a Super Bowl contender.
They are going to be very good, and like it or not, people are going to have their memory is going to be a little shorter. It's going to change a little bit. But boy, oh boy, if it goes south and he plays poorly, it is going to be a disaster. And that was the gamble that Cleveland took, and that's exactly where we're at. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that a lot of the players in the locker room weren't happy that they signed Deshaun Watson, but they would have had to do what they had to do if they were winning and he was playing really well. Now you're telling me
morally with it?
Yes. Now you're telling me I have to put up with this guy and he stinks, so he's bad, and I have to put up with what I see in my eyes a bad human being as well? It's a horrific combination. It has to end. He needs to go. And I think that's a really good way to do it, is just hit the reset on the franchise, and just the only cheap way you get good players in the NFL is through the draft, and that's what Nick just laid out. That's what you got to do.
And listen to this before we get out of here. Listen to the cap hit. Mind you, they restructured his deal to move some money to the back end of this contract. If he's on the roster next year, do you know what his cap number is?
That's like 80, right?
$72.9 million.
Yeah.
If you release him, his cap hit next year, his dead cap would be $172 million. Year after that, $72 million. If you release him, it's $100 million. Year after that, it's $27 million. So essentially, you have to carry, at a minimum, $73 million worth of Deshaun Watson for the next 2 years, which is a staggering 26% of the salary cap. Or if you release him, he's literally $172 million, which is 60% of your salary cap is on a guy that you're not paying.
You got to do something like they did with Russ and move him and say you'll eat all the money, but try to figure out a less hit on the cap.
There's no way someone would have to eat cash. No one's eating. If he's not good enough. He's not even worth. Would you pay Deshaun Watson $5 million a year? We talk about like, Nick, Trevor Lawrence is on your bottom end of quarterback.
Maybe.
No. To do what?
To be a backup? Maybe.
He sucks.
But what I'm saying is, we always say like it's impossible to do this and do that, and them boys get in the cap room and they figure something out. It was impossible for them to get off Russell Wilson until they got off Russ. So
yeah, but that money wasn't guaranteed either.
Look, bro, the cap boys always figure something out. Figure out what needs to be done for us to save. If he has to be on the roster and at home, fine. But it is all toxic over there all the time. Stefanski's at the podium essentially telling you, my hands are tied. I have to play this guy every week, no matter what. Free Stefanski, bro. Free Max Crosby.
Free Myles Garrett.
Free Myles Garrett, man.
Free the guys.
Simple. Free the guys, man. Simple as that. For Big Nick the Quick, I am your host, Sean Little. No Ketchup Sports Talk via Chicago. That's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, send the pod to a homie, tell a homie to tell a friend. YouTube is always going to be up. I'm going to cut some clips. I'm going to watch Monday Night Football, and this will be up ASAP. All the love. Appreciate everyone for listening. For Big Nick the Quick, I am your host, Sean Little. No Ketchup Sports Talk via Chicago. Stay locked in.